Welcome to the Small Business Contracts Coach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Small Business Contracts Coach with attorney Darryl Shaper of the fixed fee law firm PLLC. Darryl brings 30 years of business and legal experience helping Texas entrepreneurs build clear, practical contracts at fair and predictable prices. I'm Sean O'Connor, and joining us today is Gil Melman. He's been with us before. He's the founding partner of the BT Attorneys law firm. Gil brings decades of experience advising businesses on transactions, compliance, and real-world risk. Today, we're focusing on what happens when AI gets used in the work itself and how that changes what should be in your agreements. We'll get into contractor agreements, service agreements, and the like. Gentlemen, good to see you both.
Good to see you, Sean.
Good to see you.
This conversation is going to, I know, turn towards liability. Darryl, when a business hires a contractor today, whether, marketing, design, some kind of consulting, development, whatever it is, how often do you think is AI already being used in the work, even if nobody's talking about it?
I don't know. I haven't seen data across the board. I have seen some data with respect to legal that says 50% of lawyers are using AI in their work today.
50?
I suspect it's even, 50.
Okay.
So I think it's probably even higher for digital, digital advertising, graphic design. These areas tend to be faster adopters than lawyers.
Yeah.
So I suspect at this point, if you're not being naive, it's the majority of the time they're using AI at some level to help with the work product.
Hey, Gil, to take it from the company's point of view, what actually changes once they realize that, what they're paying for is being generated or partially generated by AI?
Yeah, so I think a couple of things. First, if I'm getting AI work product, am I getting the value of that AI, particularly in a discount? Am I getting those savings passed on to me? And that would be as a threshold matter. AI is meant to sort of shortcut and provide a simpler approach and an efficient way of doing things, whether it's preparing legal documents or or preparing a model or creative work or, and how are those savings getting allocated to me? That's a threshold matter, right? And then how is the risk that I'm just getting an AI product that doesn't have the human imprimatur on that? And should I be worried that somebody is just typing into AI, prepare the following work product and handing it off to me without the appropriate level of human review? So am I just getting an AI that I could theoretically, if I had the right prompt management, could do myself? So those are the two sort of threshold concerns that I think about on the company side.
That's interesting. You mentioned passing the savings along because I'm a contractor, I'm a consultant, and I'm using AI, and theoretically I'm getting my work done faster. I'm thinking I could also make the argument that through my use of AI, I'm making my work product even better than it would have been if I'd done it on my own, which I'm not sure I'm prepared to put that argument out there, but there is that if I'm billing by project and based on value versus hourly, that's an interesting, that perhaps is another podcast.
Yeah, no, but I would actually argue, and Darryl, I'd be interested to hear your view on this. As a lawyer, I am now using AI as a backstop, as a checklist to make sure that I didn't miss anything. Now, Darryl and I have been practicing for years and years and years, so I can draft documentation and I can give advice, quite ably just by the sheer level of experience. But now, given I have this really powerful tool, I'm like, well, what would AI say? Am I missing? And of course, it picks up some issues that I didn't. So I think it's a wonderful tool that actually I would expect if I were seeking out services as just as a matter of a box checking, is this complete? Did you check with AI to see if there's anything you missed? And I would expect that from my contractors and from people that are providing work for them. Not to use AI, I think is, I would have a problem with that. For that sheer the ability just to pick up everything that somebody might have missed.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially scanning a giant database in a sense, right? And so, hey, you missed a case law reference or whatever interesting. Hey, Daryl, you spoke earlier to how many people are using it? I'm like, let's assume you're working with a contractor, your contractor is using AI. What should the agreement say about whether that's allowed and how it's being used?
Well, I think Gil had on our last episode sort of a great line that could be inserted into services contracts for companies on a regular basis, which is, hey, we're okay with you using AI to improve the work product. Please be careful, first of all, with our confidential information and feeding
Mhm.
confidential and highly confidential information into the AI tools. If I was Coca-Cola, I wouldn't want some vendor putting in the secret recipe for Coca-Cola into
Right.
Chat GPT or Claude, because I think there could be some risk that that gets out there. So if it's super top secret like that, I think you need to be a little bit careful. And then number two is a standard of you must review it, check it, and ensure that it's ultimately your work product and you're accountable for the quality of it. So I think those two things would be the two most important requirements as a company that I would put on a vendor that's using AI.
Yeah, full disclosure and then an approved protocol for vetting it.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Interesting.
just to follow up, I mean, sometimes when you draft a contract, I mean, I can put that in the contract, but I'm advising my clients, look, you need to look them in the eye and tell them this and explain this is your policy, not just having them sign a contract that they may or may not review,
Yeah.
section 8.5 of the agreement on page 12, where, you've laid out those guidelines. You actually need to look them in the eye and say, I know you're using AI. Here's how I want you to use it. If I catch you, if I catch you using it in a way that's not consistent with this, you're violating my policies, and we're gonna have a talk about that. So I think there's a dual role there, both from a legal perspective and as a commercial matter, to explain to your people, whether they're employees, contractors, partners, whoever, this is the expectation of the company, in terms of what I want you to do with AI.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Um, Gil, following up, when something goes wrong with the work that was produced, whether it's inaccurate, poor quality, creates some sort of exposure to risk. How do companies typically think about who's responsible right now?
Yeah, I would probably default to the age old. I mean, look, the contractor's responsible. I mean, if or whoever's delivering the work product, or so I don't think that changes. And I think ultimately we're still going to be in the sort of in the paradigm where you can't. I mean, I can't imagine a world where somebody is going to say, "Well, AI said it was right. It's not my fault." Like I just don't see that. I don't know, maybe the next generation, Gen Alpha, may be comfortable saying that.
Yeah,
I have no idea. I just can't. I think at our age, we would be shocked if we heard that, right?
yeah,
And I will tell you, if I did see something where I knew they were basically passing off AI without a fairly critical review after the AI of the AI work product, I would be upset.
yeah,
And I'd consider that, like I said, not only would I consider that a breach of the contract or a breach of their duty, but as a policy matter, that's a violation of what I would have told them as a policy, that these are our policies as a company.
yeah, yeah. I get it. Yeah, I'm thinking about the old rules still apply to a certain degree where, as a consultant, I'm delivering a work product to you. My contract says at the bottom, like, I've done everything I can to ensure the accuracy of this, whatever it is. But, you, the client, are ultimately responsible for what's here, assuming I have disclosed my use of AI and, followed all other, you know, um, requirements of the agreement. So in some ways that, those sorts of agreements, those stipulations already exist in the world.
Yeah. I mean, here's
You
the
know?
catch is your client is going to take your work product and they're going to run it through AI to see if they can catch something you missed. So you're going to get this loop where
Yeah.
everybody's using AI, and you're going to Darryl and I already see that our clients are much more educated because AI gives them a better overview of the legal issue than a classic Google search.
Yeah.
So so they are well aware of what's going on, and you have to sort of fill in the gaps for them. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, Darryl, I'm explaining, well, you already know, because I know you did your AI research. You already know that this exists or there's this issue. So let's break that down and let's give you some more detail that you hadn't thought about or that your prompt didn't pick up, right? And
Yeah.
that's the value add that Darryl and I are going to add.
Right.
One of the things I'm seeing all the time now that I find sort of amusing is clients are creating a first draft of documents using AI, and then they're sending me that draft of the document. And even one of the marketplaces that I'm aware of shot me an email saying that they're seeing this broadly across their whole platform of work that's being doled out. And they made the point it might have been easier just to start from scratch rather than to start from an AI drafted document. I'm not sure either way. I frequently find it's quite helpful in that it articulates the business terms of what they want in that AI generated document because it kind of asks them a series of questions. And I assume that they've done enough work that it's put in the key business terms. And then I can build off that and make a better document. But it is an emerging trend where I'm getting more and more a first draft from one of the generic AI tools, which I don't know what you think, Gil, but I think they're not ready for prime time. I do not think they draft good legal documents yet. Someday they will, but today they don't. Do you see the same thing?
I do, and I think you're being entirely too lenient, Darryl. I think you're being really nice to your clients. I tell my clients, it is going to cost you more for me to take your bad prompted, your poorly drafted prompt, and the AI document with the blue separate lines, the blue borders and I have to and I have to work from that.
Yeah.
Please don't make me work from that. I'll give you a
Yeah.
discount. I'll give you the 15% discount so that you'll get the benefit of it. But please, please, please don't. So I have a very different opinion when they come with that.
Yeah.
That's and Darryl, I
That's
think
great.
Darryl
I
is
love exposing the differences between
Yeah.
us, and
yeah.
it's great.
And it's
And
hard. It's hard because as lawyers, we're conflicted. I mean, your client is going to say, "You're just trying to bill hours. You're trying to cut me out of the. This is a disintermediation of lawyers, and you're not willing to. You're holding on to the traditional method, and I mean, I'm like, look, I'm not hold. Why don't I teach you how to draft the prompts? Why don't we start there? I mean, give me a half hour and I'll teach you how to draft a proper prompt for a non-disclosure agreement or for this transaction or for that transaction or for that contract. That would be a better use, is to spend the time with them to teach them how to prompt the AI to do it
Yeah.
right.
Well, Darryl, you were talking about, you're seeing this trend and these documents coming across your desk. I'm curious, from your point of view, what parts of the agreements start to matter more in these kinds of situations? Representations, warranties, indemnification. Are there places your eyes go first?
it doesn't really change. If you really look at most contracts, probably the things that get negotiated and talked about the most between the parties, and I'd love Gil's list as well, but my point of view is limitation of liability is frequently negotiated. The indemnification clauses, which many clients don't understand even what indemnification is. So you probably need a lawyer to help you. But those kind of are the key couple of things. What else would you add, Gil?
My issue with, I mean, those are the two big ones. clearly. But one additional thing is provisions that really aren't to be included. Like, for instance, I'll give a classic example. This is the example that I use all the time. In a non-disclosure agreement, you may or may not have a non-solicitation of employees or non-solicitation of business or non-circumvention of business opportunities. But AI may throw that in there when you're the one who is being harmed by that clause. Where that, I see that over and over again. I'm like, why would you put this in here? You're the one who has to abide by this. Who would do that? Who would put this in against their own interest? And that's the thing that makes me, as you can tell, makes me crazy, is when I'm looking at an AI drafted document for the recipient of something, and I'm like, why do you have this in here? Why do you or if you're receiving the services and you have a limitation on liability that hurts you more than it hurts the counterparty. It's like, why are you putting this in here? If they want to ask for it, fair point, we can talk about it and we can negotiate it, but clearly it's not to your benefit to even have the provision in there in the first place. So those are the things that I'm seeing.
I think that's a really important point, Sean. What
Yeah.
Gil's saying in sort of more context for the listeners of our podcast is if you use a general AI tool, you need to tell it which side of the business you're on.
Yeah.
Am I the person consuming the services or am I the person delivering the services? Because if you just tell it to draft you a non-disclosure agreement, let's say,
Yeah.
or even better, a services contract without that important context, it's going to do a terrifically bad job for you because it's going to put in protections for the other side that you didn't want in there. And so that's pretty critical guidance. Again, I don't recommend my clients use AI, general AI, to draft today, but I do think it does a spectacularly good job of explaining language in a specific provision to them. And you can ask further questions. So I do think when a client gets a document and there's a section or something they don't understand, feeding that language into ChatGPT or any other tool and asking it some questions can be very helpful. And so don't hesitate to do that.
That's great advice. Yeah, you're reading, wait a minute, what does this indemnification clause actually mean in simpler terms, Claude, and that could be super empowering. Businesses, I mean, on the one hand, you were talking about how, a potential client or a client is using AI to generate an NDA or a services agreement, and in doing so, stacks the deck against themselves. But they're using the tool ostensibly to save themselves some time and money and what have you. And then that ends up undermining any advantage they might have had. But this other usage of, no, when someone sends you a contract, sends you an NDA or whatever it might be, using AI now to be my translator, super empowering. And you can go back and go, hey, what's this clause? It seems like you're taking advantage of me. Yeah.
And the other thing that I think might be good, that's sort of a prompt that you could write for the AI that could be helpful is, hey, what in this agreement, Gil was talking about checking, what would normally be in here that's missing? I have a prompt that I've developed that I feed that in when I have my AI tools, and I have legal specific AI tools, but I have them do two things. One, what things are missing that might normally be in this document, and it sometimes has some interesting ideas. And the other one that I love, I don't know if you use this, Gil, on the tool we both use together. I don't want to mention the name, but they have the tidy up prompt where it sort of checks the entire document for missing cross references or dropped definitions that aren't actually used in the document. That tidy up function and prompt is really, really good for me as a lawyer. I don't know if it really probably doesn't work for the average user out there, but just like Gil was saying, I think it checks my work product at the end and makes it a little bit tighter, a little bit cleaner on the details, which sometimes if I'm tired or whatever, I may miss.
Yeah. You're human. You're
Yeah.
human.
And Darryl and I both have we both use associates for some of the legwork, and that is
Yeah.
typically you hand off that document to an associate and say, "Hey, check all the cross references, check
Yeah.
the definitions, check," and that is a true first, second year lawyer project.
Yeah.
And you're basically taking a first or second year lawyer 3 hours worth of work and you're condensing it to 10 minutes of
Wow.
your time. So, I mean, there's no way around the savings. I mean, and you
Right.
should
No, I get it.
absolutely, from my perspective, the client benefits from that in a huge way.
Yeah. 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 It's hard to argue for sure. Listen, fellas, we're up against time, but I look forward to more conversations in the future. Thank you both for your time and points of view and expertise.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
That wraps up this episode of the Small Business Contracts Coach. If you're working with contractors or service providers and want to make sure your agreements actually protect your business, Darryl Shaper offers fixed fee contract review and drafting at fixedfeelawfirm.com. And to learn more about Gil Melman and his work advising businesses on transactions, compliance, and other legal strategy, visit his website, thebtattorneys.com. Thanks for listening. I'm Sean O'Connor. Do us a favor, give us a thumbs up, leave a review, subscribe to the show, and share it with friends. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.